Hi everyone, welcome back to Modern Dentist. Sonia from 32Co here, and today I am joined by Craig Welling from FMC, Managing Director of the biggest dental media company in Europe and probably other areas of the world as well. You will definitely have heard of the work that FMC does, even if you haven't heard of the actual kind of umbrella company. They bring you things like dentistry.co.uk, the magazine, the shows. So super excited to have you here, Craig.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really, really good to be here.
Let's kick off by finding out a bit more about you. How do you get into the world of dentistry? Because you're not a dentist.
I'm not. No, not a clinician. So my background's very simple, really. I was working class family from Hertfordshire. Went to school, did A levels, decided I wanted to go and work, and went back. Told my mum I was leaving, and she said to me, "You're not staying here unless you either further education or go and get a job." So I went off, got into recruitment, and I really liked the sales side of things, so interacting with people, and then I actually moved on to an estate agency role for all my sins, and then the crisis hit in 2008. So I had to look for different opportunities because obviously the housing market was terrible, and come across FMC. So joined FMC in 2008, met Ken, who's the founder, and I've been there ever since. So I started off in a telesales role, literally phoning dentists. I'm sure there's many dentists that have probably hung up on me or put the phone down with me trying to sell a subscription. But just loved it, loved the company, loved the culture. And just worked my way through the ranks, and now I'm here.
Amazing story to come from. Turning up in telesales and getting to know the customers from the ground up.
Yeah.
Do you think that was important, essential to get to where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, like with any role, I think. If you enjoy what you do, and it's obviously a cliche that everybody says, you never work a day, but I think, the culture that we have and that Ken ultimately created at FMC was all about work ethic. And if you work hard, he's always been great at rewarding success. And I think we was just talking just before we started about, the people that have been at FMC have been there for, on average, 8 to 9 years, and it's really important. And I just think, we cover so many different disciplines within the market. It's been really nice to have a touch point in every area. So working with clinicians, then working with the trade, and just seeing how everything ties together.
I think maybe what's helpful is the amount of work that FMC does, I think, is underestimated. I think most people who are in dentistry now, especially if they're on the younger side, will not remember a time when, for example, dentistry.co.uk wasn't around. Can you just describe what are all the things that FMC does?
Yep.
And what do you think the impact of those things is?
Yeah, it's a broad question. So I think, ultimately we are an award-winning multi-channel media business. So for us, our ethos is, however a dental professional consumes media, whether that be online, in print, social media, awards, events, we want to make sure that we have a leading platform where we can communicate practical content to the mass. So we're not aiming at high-end academia. We just want practical information, whether that be business related or practical clinical content that people can consume en masse. So we produce magazines. We have obviously the UK's #1 website. We invest a huge amount into data. We have an online education platform. We then run a series of awards, such as the Private Dentistry Awards, Dentistry Awards, Clinical Dentistry Awards. We have a separate awards in Ireland. And then we run our regional shows, so allowing dentists to get face-to-face with companies like yourselves, but also to interact with their peers and listen to live lectures and gain CPD.
huge amount of work, and each of those is a business in and of itself.
Yeah.
Running, I imagine, print magazines is a completely different science to organising a show. How does the company break down? Like, how do you manage all of that?
Yeah, so I think again, it's they are run as separate entities. So we have a dedicated events team. So our event director, Liana, she's been with the company, I think, 15 years. A phenomenal character, and she's developed a culture within her team, her contacts, her knowledge. So they will run it with liaising with speakers. They go to international events to see where the draw is. Who's pulling a big crowd, and then liaising with them to bring them to the UK. So our profession can see the latest innovations, because otherwise it can get very samey. You see a lot of people on the lecture circuit at every event, which is great, and it allows people to see everyone. But what we want to try and do is bring another element of, like, if somebody's doing something phenomenal in the States, they should come over here. And we've always tried to innovate and bring a slightly different edge to the sector. So that's on the event side. And I suppose on print, we have a content team, so headed up by Guy Hiscott, who's our content director. So each publication will have, a mission of what they're trying to achieve, what the values are, and then they will commission content, work with contributors. Then we have a more journalistic approach where they'll go out and interview certain individuals that really fits with the ethos of that title. So, if I take, for instance, like private dentistry, it's all about how to grow your business. How do you retain patients, grow patients if you're looking to switch to NHS? So, again, the publication is all geared around that. Hopefully
Amazing.
That answers your question.
No, I think it just... I think it can't be underestimated how difficult it is to run an organisation that has things running in parallel but that have to be stuck together. And I think you said the mission of each individual. I presume, and I can see that they are all tied together with a wider mission of FMC. How do you practically tie those things together just day to day? How do you make sure that what's happening in the magazine side is tying in with the award side, and that everyone's kind of singing from the same hymn sheet?
Yeah, and I think it's just about having like a clear focus and direction. So, we have a let's just say an end goal for the year where we want to get to, and then we break that down into small milestones. I get obsessed with things, so like each step becomes very obsessive, and we'll work together as a team to make sure that we achieve that step. So whether that be the content that's at the show is then formalized into a video interview or a podcast or a webinar, so the people that wasn't at the show can then still interact with it online, and then that snippet's then taken into the title to make sure that the mass get to see the latest innovations, the latest trends, because one model doesn't fit all. You're not going to get an issue of Dentistry magazine and communicate to everybody, because they might access the content online, or they might not be online. They might go to a show. So it's how do we shatter the content in so many ways that it appeals to the mass, and you get the most visibility, I suppose.
Yeah, I think what you said about you're doing a service to the industry, and when we were thinking about why this was such an interesting topic, I kept coming back to this idea of like what would happen if FMC just disappeared overnight. You would lose a lot of the cohesion, I think, in the industry, and you would lose a lot of that new information, but it takes a lot of work to bring that in. And I think it feels so natural now that obviously I just open the next edition of Dentistry magazine, or I look online, and obviously the latest innovation is there. But it is not easy. I mean, we talked about going to IDS before.
Yeah.
So tell us about why are you going to IDS? You don't have to go.
Yeah, so I've just come back from the midwinter show that's held in Chicago, and again, it's just to see how other markets operate. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel, and we want to innovate, but also we want to learn from the best. And if you look at some of the bigger media organisations over in the States, they do things really well. So, you know, we can take those elements and bring it back to the UK. And, you know, ultimately for us as a team and our culture and ethos is we work really hard. You know, the effort that we put in, we always try, and I think everyone will say it, but we generally do try our best at everything. So if you look at the magazines, if you look at the awards, you know, the team take it really personally. Like, they want to succeed, they want to win, and we have a very competitive nature in that sense. It's like, we want the private dentistry awards to be bigger, we want to impact more practices, you know, we want to try and drive more awareness to the profession. And I think, you know, hard work coupled with great products, you can't really lose, because, you know, they go hand in hand. So again, I think we said this before, it's a cliche, but, you know, I think generally if you talk to the team at FMC, that they're all really passionate and they're all really invested. So a lot goes into it, but we really enjoy it. So it doesn't feel like a huge effort, if that makes sense.
How do you get feedback from customers? I mean, when you put that much effort in, the nicest thing is to receive some sort of information about whether people have appreciated the information you put out, so you can tweak it. You talked a bit about data. Mm-hmm. How does that work?
Yeah, so we do lots of surveys. We actually run the largest dentistry census, and then we managed to get featured on the BBC and ITV just about our views within UK dentistry. And it's like anything, it's just that having a Kaizen approach. You know, we don't get everything right all the time. We know that, but we try really hard. So
for people who don't know what Kaizen is, maybe a quick summary.
Yeah, so just always striving to be better. So, you know, that worked really well, but what could we change? How does it work? You know, I think we've just launched the campaign with you guys, and we'll always ask for your feedback. What worked? What didn't work? And we do that with every company. And it's not to say that we're going to get everything right 100% of the time, but we continue to strive to make sure that we do and deliver results. And ultimately, you know, I think that's why we're in a fortunate position. Is we're a results-driven business. So, you know, if we deliver for clients, if we deliver for the profession, ultimately we're going to grow, and so is everybody else. So, yeah, that's where we are.
How did you come up with some of the more innovative ideas that, again, people just assume have always been around, like, you know, awards? Mm-hmm. Lots of industries that I think have awards, but you've really taken it up a notch to the point where most people will have seen it on their socials or will have participated. Where did that come from?
Yeah, so it's an interesting one. So obviously in the media space, there's the major publishing awards, which we was fortunate enough to win this year. We won Media Brand of the Year.
Amazing.
Super proud of, and it shows our impact within the sector. But I mean, I was talking to Ken about this because the awards actually launched way before I joined FMC, and again, it was more, we used to enter the media awards, and it would really push us because, excuse me, when you're writing about how innovative you are, or you know, what impact you've had on a sector, you reflect and you think, actually, we're not that good, or actually, we're really strong. But you know, it really opens up yourself as a business because you're reflecting on what you're doing, you're writing about it, you're saying how good you are and what you've done, and that really pushed us as a business to want to be better, to be stronger, and then also seeing, you know, like, other publishers win obviously drives you on to next year to be better. So we then took that model and said, well, we could do that in dentistry, and we think that'd be great for the profession. If a practice is sitting there, you know, striving to be better, improving their clinical skills, improving their business, it's only a good thing. So we launched the awards. You know, I think Private Dentistry Awards started in Café de Paris with like 50 people. It's now 1,100 people in London. You know, I think it's probably the biggest awards in Europe. continues to grow, and it's great, and it's great to see one of my favourite things on the night is just seeing the reaction of the practices that win. It means so much to them, and it's just lovely to be part of.
Yeah, that's a really amazing image of something going from 50 in a small cafe to where it is now. And do you get detractors? Do you get people who think that it's not a good idea, or?
Yeah, I think with anything, you're always going to get people that don't believe in it, and I don't do much social media. It's not really my thing, but you see people write things on the groups to say, oh, if you don't buy a table, you don't win. Obviously, if that was our business model, we would have fallen over years ago. We have a vigorous judging process that's made up of like 35 luminaries in the sector that come to our HQ that run through that judging process vigorously to make sure that they pick the best entries. So, I'd welcome anyone to come and join and have a look.
Be an auditor.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We're just trying to do good things in the sector, and but ultimately, I think with anything around awards and other elements of what we do, there's always going to be people that don't like it, which is fine, and people are entitled to an opinion, right? You can't please everyone, but ultimately, if we're focused on our mission and what we're trying to achieve, it that's all that we can do.
Talk about comments under things, and I think when you're a dentist or any healthcare professional working in primary care, it tends to be quite isolated in a lot of ways. It's you and your patient, and where you find kind of interaction and community can be online, and it is often in forums and discussions, and even in posts below social media posts. How have you guys thought about community building? So not just giving information, but also building communities.
I mean, obviously for us, we're all about mass, so communicating practical information to the mass. But obviously we have gone on to launch the Dentistry Club, which is an online education platform for mass, but again, trying to drive that sense of community. And I think if you look at each niche of FMC as an element, so private dentistry, we have the title, we have the section on the website, we have the awards. Ultimately, that is a community in itself, and we engage with them. But I think dentistry as a whole it's a very trying to think of the word. It's very community driven. You go to most shows, and someone will know someone, or they would have gone to dental school together, and that's one of the things I love about the sector the most. It's big enough, but it's also very small, and everybody knows everyone, and it's a friendly sector. There's not much, nastiness, if that makes sense. There's a bit, as you get with every sector, but ultimately it's a good place to be.
It's that kind of the flavour, I suppose, of the community is something that probably comes from the people who are in the community, but also from the people who drive the community. Like the tone that you set when you build a community has an impact. So how have you guys tried to set that tone? Because if you go too broad and you let things run, you can find that sort of the loudest, most aggressive voices take over, and sort of the mass populace that doesn't feel particularly strong but still wants to interact don't get heard as much. How do you curate that, or how do you try and build?
I suppose the thing is there's so many different ages and stages within the profession. So you've got really successful practice owners that mid-50s, super clinicians, right? But they don't want to enter the awards. They don't want that accolade anymore. But they're very knowledgeable. So we interact with them, and they write and they publish and they give their experience. But then we'll also work with, the likes of the young up and coming first year grads that are coming through that are real, they want to have an impact on the sector. And I suppose I couldn't pin it down to just one community, because what we try to do is we try to work with every part of the sector to make sure that, you know, we're relevant to as many people as possible. So, for instance, like a dentist in Hertfordshire that has a really successful private practice, he's going to appeal to a certain group. Or you've got, you know, someone like Rona Iskander, who's incredibly popular, you know, is like a thought leader in her own right. So we'll work with Rona and she'll get a point across that works really well. And then Simon Chard and Robbie Hughes and, you know, these types of characters. But you've also got kind of unsung heroes that don't want to be in the limelight and they don't have a big presence, but they're phenomenal at what they do. So then we work with them to publish content, or they might lecture at an event. And I suppose it's just trying to give as many touch points as possible to engage with the profession as a whole. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it does. I think that point about if you don't want to be in the limelight, how, as a young dentist particularly, can you have an impact? I think that's really important. You can write really great content.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is useful for people, or participate in the community without having to have an Instagram that has, you know, 2 million followers.
Yeah.
It's possible, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think, you know, like my view, whether it's right or wrong, I think you see these dentists that are uber successful, you know, and they've obviously grafted incredibly hard. But people come out of dental school and they see they've got 300,000 followers, you know, they're doing these incredible smile makeovers, and they want to do that straight away. It's like, it's not possible. Like, learn the basics, do the basics really, really well, and then work up to that. They're not, you know, they haven't got to that level of success overnight. And I think that is probably the one worry in the sector, that everybody wants to do these incredible smile makeovers, you know, but these guys have been practicing that for years, you know, and they've honed their skills and their techniques, and obviously they've got huge followings and they're big personalities. I suppose the worry is people trying to do that too soon.
Yeah, or feeling the pressure to get to that point
to get,
2 years out of university, because it's all been made to look very easy.
Yeah.
And that's, I suppose that's part of what social media does. It makes everything look very shiny.
Yeah.
Actually, the, you know, 6 days a week of working, you know, 3 years of just doing NHS work to get your hand skills up to be able to do that kind of stuff doesn't really get photographed and shown.
Yeah, and I think that's probably like everything, right? I'm sure people have looked at awards, events and gone, oh, I'll give that a crack. And then tried and then realised actually there's a lot that goes into it, and it's not like we've just launched the Private Dentistry Awards and it's happened overnight. It's been a 14-year process. So there's some. It'd be interesting to see. I mean, you know, I think the profession's never been stronger. I think it's a, you know, dentistry is a great place to be in at the moment. I think there's much more. Like, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, I think it's a good thing for the sector. But like with social media, with the reality TV, you know, people want to beautify their smile. You know, they want to get shiny white teeth, and you know, there's more money coming in that sense. And I think there was a stat, and don't quote me, but I think like the average age of a smile makeover has dropped by something like 8 years. Because, you know, most people would wait till they had a bit more money behind them. You know, they get to a certain age and they think, oh, I'm going to invest in that. As where you look now, you've got like early 20-year-olds going out and you know, having good restorative dentistry done, which wouldn't have happened 10 years ago. So it's a good thing.
It's a great thing. There's a lot of demand out there. And actually part of what we... part of the reason why 32Co does what it does is to support dentists and clinicians in meeting the demand of the patient population. This is not about, you know, selling things that people don't want. People are coming in because they want this, but they want it done properly. And that piece around don't run before you can walk. That is it's very much what we're trying to help people to do, which is you're not going to become, let's say, an orthodontist overnight. So we'll train you properly. It'll take a few weeks and it's going to require some hard work from you. But then you're going to be able to do your first safe clear aligner treatment, and then you're going to get better and better. But there is no magic wand that you can wave to turn you into a superstar orthodontist overnight.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's reassuring for young people to hear, especially just coming out of uni and assuming that they're going to have to be earning, know,
buying their own practice
straight away.
Yeah. And I think, like anything, you just got to pick your route, set yourself a goal, break it down, and then just work as hard as you can at each element, and it will come good.
Like you say,
if you put the effort in, and whether that be training yourself in ortho and taking the correct route, not trying to rush it, it's a good thing, and it's a good thing for patients. It's a good thing for the profession. So I think it's a great time to be in dentistry, and seeing the new dentists coming through. That's been a big shift, I think.
Yeah, what have you seen that's different?
So I think we spoke about this a few weeks ago, but you see much more self-branding. I think with like things like this, like podcasts and webinars, and we get so many requests for people to publish their own content because they're trying to build their brand, which is great. You want good clinicians to come forward, and I think there was kind of a few movers and shakers that did that, but it was like the minority. And obviously you see them now, they're at the forefront because they got on social media early before anyone else. They had a mission that they was going to impact the patients and drive their own brand, which then results in successful businesses. And I think our Young Dentist Award is probably the most popular award that we do, because even looking at some of the names that we said today, they've all come through that. They've all won that award, or been finalists in that category to give them that self-branding. So I think we're seeing more of that as time goes on. Like you see a lot of dentists now at shows, and they've got their own videographers following them around. Like you never would have seen that 10 years ago, but I think you have to embrace it. I know you get people saying, what is going on? Like, look at that. But they've got a mission that they're trying to achieve. I don't think it's an ego thing. I think they're doing it because they're trying to build their own personality to their audience, which is, you can't knock it. I think credit that they're working hard at a mission, and if they do it right and they take the right things, it's only a good thing.
I think that's a really nice way of putting it. I think it's very easy to sort of sneer at that, but it's very easy to say, well, look, that is all driven by ego. But if you're building your business, you're trying everything. It's quite brave to put yourself out there.
Absolutely. And I think some of the guys, you see the content that some people put out now, it's incredible. You think that they've really thought about it, to really push themselves. And then, the beauty of what we do is we have a vast community, so we can help amplify that to the mass. And if we can, impact one dentist a year, that's a great thing. And with that, we've done our job. I think, just striving for people to become better, service patients, help their business grow is, that's why we're there.
How talking about branding, I mean, you guys are obviously brand experts. That's what you do. How would you define what a good brand looks like, or how do you build a brand for yourself as a dentist? Are there different ways of doing it? Is it all about socials? Well,
it's, like anything, I think you have to have a clear focus. So, like if you look at George Cheetham, for instance, like the guy has gone down a clinical route, and he's renowned as a phenomenal clinician. And if you look at his socials, you look at the content he puts out, it's all around his clinical dentistry and showing off his clinical skills, which he's phenomenal at. And then you look at other dentists where their patient, their view of their brand is they want to get out to patients, they want to show success, get your teeth done by me because I work with celebrities and influencers, and that's their niche. So I suppose, a successful brand is ultimately what you determine it to be. So you have to pick your angle that you're going to go down here. Do you want to appeal to dentists to become, the next KOL to be a teacher, or are you looking to build your own practice and get out to as many patients within that area? And then I suppose it's then developing your brand around the needs of what you're trying to achieve. So, you do see some interesting brands out there, and I think it's just maybe a lack of focus. I don't know, or people that are just trying and they're starting out. But I think, my only advice would be is like, pick your niche, your focus, and then develop everything that fits with that, and make sure that what you're trying to achieve always aligns with those values. Is that going to get me more patients, or is that going to portray me as a better clinician? And if it doesn't, then don't publish it.
Really good advice, really clear advice. I guess look inwards and say, what is my USP? If you're not someone who is super comfortable in front of a camera, then don't make your thing.
That's why I wasn't going to do this.
To drag you in. No, but I think the reason why I said, look, I think this would be really good, is because I think it's so important for dentists to see what goes on behind the scenes with the media and the communications that they receive, and how much hard work goes into that, and then it doesn't just happen overnight. I mean, we've got the North of England Dentistry Show coming up. You turn up, your badges work, everything works, you get all of your emails before. It's all magic, right? But no, I imagine that there's a huge amount that goes into that. Just for people, I'm sure everyone's been to a show, but what actually goes into that? Yeah,
so I suppose it's broken down into lots of different elements. I mean, again, for us, is like, our mission is, how can we get content to the mass? So, we looked at high populated areas where there aren't currently shows. So you look at the North of England, there's no consistent show in the North. Obviously, there's a huge amount of practices, huge amount of laboratories. They all need content. They all want to see what the latest innovations and products are. So, ultimately, we start off, we pick the area, then we look at the venue, then we build the content strategy. So, who do we want to come to the show? What do we want them to leave with? And then it's a case of, Leanna and her team, they've got an endless book of connections. They work with a content team who, we've got our editorial board, our award judging panel. So they then formulate the content strategy of the show. And then it's about then on the commercial side, talking to exhibitors and bringing them along. Obviously every brand wants to connect with dental professionals. Then you formalise your marketing strategy and make sure, you market all of the USPs. Obviously our strength is we've got the audience, so it's easier for us. Somebody who was to set up who didn't have that platform, it'd be incredibly challenging, because to get through to dentists, engage with dentists is tricky, right?
Yeah. And then to get the suppliers interested as well. Like, it's a bit of a it's a virtuous cycle if you get it right.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I imagine it's really hard to get around.
And we had some shows in COVID that were terrible.
I was going to ask you, anything ever gone wrong?
Yeah, all the time. And I think we had a show that was in Cardiff, and it was terrible, absolutely terrible. We wanted, as a business, to put a stake in the ground and get the profession back out. And we took the view that we needed to be the voice that said, get back out, it's safe, interact, learn, engage in a safe manner. But I think we did, in hindsight's a wonderful thing. I think we probably did go a bit too soon with that, and numbers weren't what they were. But we took a huge amount of learning from that, and the team did, and we looked at how we could change. And then, last Saturday we had our digital and implant show, phenomenal success. The feedback that we've got from companies has been incredible, and onwards and upwards. We started the year on a high, and it's that same thing. How do we make that better? How can we take the learnings from that to impact the North Show, and then we go on and we just keep trying.
Super inspiring. I mean, you've been doing this since 2009. That's almost 15 years. You've still got so much energy to try and make things better. Yeah. How do you maintain that drive to keep pushing?
I think I'm just...
Have you ever had a sabbatical or time off?
No.
No.
I took 2 weeks off when my girls were born.
Wow, that's loads.
But yeah, I think, I'm very competitive. Like,
right.
I'm an uber competitive person in anything I do. If I'm, whatever it is, if I'm in the gym, if I'm, really embarrassing, but I did the marathon and my wife beat me by 4 minutes. I cannot handle it, honestly. It eats me up every day. So I will do the London Marathon again to beat her time. But yeah, I'm just really competitive, and I think, it is part of our culture at FMC that Ken and Kimberly, who founded the company, their work ethic was phenomenal. And just watching them and them being mentors, to me, it's like, if you're the hardest working person in the room, even if you're not the most talented, you're going to get results. So I've just always had that instinct, I suppose, is like, there's no point of doing something if you're not going to try your best. I don't see the point, in all honesty. It's like, just don't do it. If you're not going to give it 100%, just don't bother, just give it up. So yeah, I think just, like for anyone, if you just try your hardest, you're going to get results. It might not work straight away, but keep trying, keep plugging away. And, ultimately when you do get the wins, like, celebrate them. Like after the Private Dentistry Awards, it was great. The whole team were there. We had a champagne, we celebrated, everyone was on the dance floor. It's a big night for the company. Like 1,100 dentists celebrating success in the sector. That's a huge amount of work that went into it, and the guys working late, working weekends. They choose to do it. It's not like we never say you have to work till 8 o'clock at night. They want to, because they want to win, and that's the culture that we've developed. And I think you see people have come to FMC and you can tell straight away they're not going to fit this culture. They don't interact well with their peers, don't have the same thing, which is fine. Not everyone, what we call, can be an FMC person, but I think ultimately once you're in the company and you're part of it, it's very hard to leave. Yeah,
that's not easy to do. It's very, very like you say, you don't force people to stay late.
Yeah.
You just say, look, here's the objective, and it's up to you how you get there.
Yeah.
We're gonna get there. It's for the right kind of person, I imagine it's a really, really stimulating place to be, and not dissimilar to the way that we work here, to be honest. But so what does a day look like for you? A normal day. I suppose there's no such thing as a normal day when you've got so many things.
I mean, for me, it's mainly involved in the commercials. So like my role's always been client facing. So I talk to most companies in the sector. So I try to get into the office as much as possible. We still work from the office 4 days a week. We do 1 day remote, and we're big believers in that, because I think remote working works, right? We all saw that over COVID. You can get a job done, but working with your peers and having human interaction is so important, because something that you might have to dial in on a Zoom and then you have to share your screen and show this and this is not quite working, or you can walk over to someone's desk and say, I need to get this done. You can implement it really quickly. So I try to get into the office, interact with the team, but ultimately it's just just making sure we are where we need to be with numbers, working with the marketing team, making sure that they're happy, they've got enough resource, looking at the campaigns, what's worked, talking to Liana, is there anything she's struggling with, the events, the content side, and then getting out and seeing clients.
On the road a lot.
On the road, yeah. traveling up and down the country. But I really enjoy it. You know, it's like coming here, talking to you guys, having a coffee, talking about what your vision is, you know, and then going to see another company who's in a completely different space, you know, doing digital dentistry. It's nice. You get a good variety. And then ultimately, when you see these companies grow and you know you've had an impact, it's rewarding.
It's great. We've certainly enjoyed working with you guys. You know, for us, it's a bit of a no-brainer, I suppose, with the trust that you've built with the community to work with you and to also learn from you. I think that was the most important thing for us. It's like you came in and we had a chat about, well, what is it what we do, what is it about our story and our vision that you think is meaningful and that resonates, and having those kind of words of advice and an opinion from someone who sees everything is really, really helpful. And for a young company that's doing some pretty bold things, I think it's amazing to have partners like that, where it doesn't feel like a relationship where it's, you know, money changes hands. Service is delivered. You know, it's much more than that. So you've built something. You and the team have built something very, very cool, and I'm sure it will be around for a long time. What is the next thing, or the next few themes that you think will be important in dentistry and that you're going to focus on?
So I think one thing nobody can ignore is the use of AI technology. You know, I think you can see it coming in now within practices, but I think within the media side is something we're really closely looking at, and I think will have a massive impact in the next 12 months on our business that will really propel us forward. But also, you know, just technology in general. I think, you know, there's a place for print media, and there will be for years, you know. And I think you do see, you know, young companies coming in completely focused on digital because it's trackable, it's transparent, which is great. But you're also only talking to a segment of the market, because the guys that have cash, that have well-established practices, you know, they're not on TikTok or they're not on Instagram, you know, filming their Ferraris. They're in practice, you know, conservative characters, traditional type dentists that will still pick up the magazine, find out what the latest views are. So yeah, I think for us it's like keeping our bread and butter and making sure it's continues to be solid. You know, keep investing in those platforms, but then looking at expansion within the digital platform. So the Dentistry Club, which we launched, you know, that's gaining huge traction. It's the largest library of content in the UK. So we have 500 enhanced courses, all of the recommended topics, but we're again trying to push the boundaries. So we started to do live surgery. So, you know, we looked at webinars and they serve a purpose, right? They're good, and you can have somebody on a slideshow saying, this is how you do a root canal, and next slide. So we've partnered with Dr. Colin Campbell. He's got phenomenal practice in Nottingham, great AV setup, and we've worked with him to build 12 clinical cases. So we have Riaz Yar on occlusion, we then have a single implant case, we have an endo case, an ortho case, and it's live streamed with a patient. So the clinician will have an earpiece in, and you can tune in, watch, and, you know, if there's an error, it's live, and you have to watch them overcome adversity. You know, it's not like you can just switch the camera off. So it's real live learning, and then you can ask questions to the clinician as they're performing. And I think that's really exciting because it's not been done that I know of. And again, we just keep trying to push the boundaries of education, and you know, just trying to support the profession with practical information as much as we can.
Sounds really cool. Genuinely really cool. I mean, this is like you say, people can become overwhelmed by what comes at them digitally.
Yeah.
You know, you look at your inbox and it's sometimes hard to find the things that you're interested in.
Yeah.
But doing things live, I think, is especially through the pandemic times when it was all, like you say, next slide, please.
Yeah.
Chris Whitty style. The being able to do something a bit more revolutionary in the education space is really, really cool. And I think to your point about still remembering that there is a whole swath of dentists who don't really want to be on socials like reading physical magazines because it's nice to leaf through, something. And I think it's very important not to assume that just because there's a future that is all about AI and all about technology, all about TikTok, that means that everyone needs to do that and has to do that. I think it's a really just very cool that you guys still have your eyes on the rest of the community as well.
Yeah, because I think like anything, like any brand, is if your market is that online TikTok, Instagram market, that's where you should be. But most companies will target the whole of dentistry in an element. So sometimes I do think, why would you cut off a percentage of the market? And you have to go, you agree with clients, that's their view, but we can only have an input to say, it's not like we're just trying to say it to generate more revenue. It's like, we want to get you the results, and that's what we believe will work. We're not publishing magazines for the fun of it. It's a lot of work. It costs a huge amount of money, but ultimately there's still a market there which serves the profession and the trade. So, we definitely won't take our eye off that.
Yeah. Awesome, Craig. I think it would be fun to move into some quickfire questions. One of the things that we like to ask is, what do people presume about you that isn't true?
Me, I don't know.
Or maybe about FMC, about the business.
So I think that would probably have a view to the mass that we're very commercially focused, which we are, but ultimately we have a mission that, money's a byproduct of that. So I think, it's not just all about how big we can make the awards, the glitz and the glam. It's like we're doing it for a purpose, which then results in a commercial reward. It's not just about the revenue.
No, it's good. Certainly come through in this podcast. There's so much more than just a paycheck at the end of it.
Yeah.
What do you need to stay sane?
To beat my wife at the marathon.
When is the next marathon?
I didn't get in. It was April, but I like to run and go to the gym. Just have a bit of an hour of me.
It's amazing you can squeeze that all in with your travelling and your family and...
Yeah, I've got a very supportive wife. It
helps.
It does help. So she's very very accommodating, which definitely helps.
What do you think's the hardest thing about doing this job?
That's a good question. Hardest thing, making sure everyone's happy, like in the team, because ultimately everyone's got their day-to-day lives, everyone's got problems, everyone's got issues. Everyone wants to win, everyone wants to succeed, and it's just making sure that you create an environment that people can excel in, and you listen to them and support them, and they feel cared and wanted, and that's tough, really tough, but it seems to be working at the moment.
Sounds like it. I mean, I don't think I've ever spoken to a single CEO or founder who hasn't said that people are the biggest, the hardest thing, and it's, you need great people, and making them happy is the only thing that will help the business succeed.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think people assume that the hardest thing will be meeting my numbers and meeting my targets. It's never that.
Never that, yeah. It's like that's a byproduct of everything. If you've got a good, happy, motivated team that are all aligned with what you're trying to achieve, everything else follows.
Same for practice managers and same for practice owners as well. I think that will resonate with them, I think. What about, I'm sure you get asked for advice a lot, but what was the last bit of advice that you gave a dentist?
I gave a dentist. I think like what I said earlier actually. So there's a couple of the younger dentists coming through, and it was like, just stay focused on what you really believe in. You know, don't try and become this super Hollywood smile, Instagram, Ferrari driving dentist next week. You know, pick your lane, surround yourself with really good clinicians that have been there, done it. You know, take baby steps, but have that clear focus, and then, you know, just work towards that relentlessly, and you'll get there.
Love that. Wise words from Craig. Thank you, Craig, for an awesome podcast. I think I certainly learned a lot about FMC and really its importance in dentistry and keeping it informed and keeping it together. So thank you for the work that you do. That's it for another episode of The Modern Dentist. Follow us on Instagram, find all of our other episodes there, and we look forward to seeing you next time.